welcome back to Block TV, where it is that time of the week. We gather the wheelers and dealers of the sphere and Yona and plow them with alcohol and see if they can answer the hot topics of the crypto sphere. So happy to have you guys here. I'm going to introduce our victims of the week, starting with Eitan Levy, no connection to me, co-founder, CTO at 2Key Network. Hello to you. As we said, we are doing this today with none other than Yona Hochhauser, Block TV's reporter, the man with the gin and the breezer. And lucky lady that I am, the other woman in the studio is Jaguar Advocat, from Jaguar Lawyers. Hello to you.
Hello
and of
there.
course, none other than Alexis Davis, advisor at Blockchain Israel. Indeed. Folks, as we were sitting here just a short while ago, the foreign minister of Iran, very prolific Twitter user, Jawad Zarif, had the following tweet. There we go, folks. Excellent bilateral and multilateral meetings with friends at the Kuala Lumpur Summit 2019. Initiatives on good governance, inclusive dialogue, media, digital economy, tech, R&D, innovation fund, trade of border, alternative finance, and unified cryptocurrency moving forward on inclusive synergy. Then there was some really nice, there we go. They're all sitting there. Oh my God, there's Erdogan from Turkey, sitting, discussing cryptocurrencies, trying to regulate them, legalize them in their neck of the woods. Needless to say, all of this is happening on the cuff of 2020, where the United States has doubled down on not regulating anything when it comes to crypto. Europe moving ahead with that. Guys, is Iran just going to beat us all to the punch?
I think we had this conversation about China a couple of weeks
Yeah,
ago.
it's like what David said from David Marcus from Microsoft, saying if we don't go there first, the Chinese will beat us.
Forget
Or
the Chinese. What if the Iranians
Yeah,
do it?
so
If
even
the
worse.
Iranians do it, what does it mean for the West? Because then it really becomes funny money.
If the good guys don't come in first, the other ones might. Not saying anything good or bad about the other ones, but if the West doesn't go in first, the others will. As exactly what it is, as he said.
What's happening right now?
You
I
could
don't
have the
expect you
Jewish
to-
Polish thing of like, I didn't want to say I told you, but I told you.
I told you so, but I told you so?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think Iran or anyone's going to use an Iranian central currency outside of Iran. I think it's more that if the EU does want to get out from under Trump's thumb, out from under the dollar, which they've been saying for a long time, they have an incentive to kind of work with Iran and have their own central currency and trade with Iran that way.
Or alternatively,
That's
Iran
interest.
gets a cryptocurrency, says bafankulu to any kind of sanction on
Exactly.
it.
They have the
Well-
best interest to do that.
Well, Iran's actually in a very unique position, I guess, in a sense like China, because they're the IRGC and a subunit of theirs called the Basij are actually entrenched in the Iranian economy. So when it comes to construction, business contracts, building, all that kind of stuff, they are essentially the builders and backers of the entire economy there. So if they wanted to implement an Iranian CBDC, the digital rial, so to say,
They could.
I don't think
They-
they're in any position to do anything. I mean, it's a miracle that this guy actually got access to Twitter, right?
no,
Given the
not,
fact
the,
that
no,
Not
they-
America.
not when it comes
given,
to the
given the
government.
fact they just closed Twitter and the
For the
internet
people.
for
for
the
the
entire
government.
people,
For
for
the
the people,
people.
not the government.
Right. So the thing is, with cryptocurrencies, if you don't have access with the people, you're not going to have any success with the currency. So Chinese can make it happen because they have full command and authority over their people. In Iran, Iranians are getting shot dead. Their gas and petrol are being limited. The borders are being closed, and the internet is being shut down because they have no control over their people. Their people just burnt one of their central banks. So I don't think Iran is going to win this. The Iranians might.
Well, I don't think there's much of like Iran winning this, so to say, because like it's not really it's not really a space race who launches the first thing first. There's going to be multiple iterations of CBDCs, multiple ways that people try and incorporate it, like Venezuela airdropping the petro to their people. You're going to see multiple different methods
What you're
of this
seeing
playing
here
out.
is basically like the ICO rush of 2017, just on the national level, right? It's like instead of the ICO, it's now like countries are being racing, to bring out
CBDC.
currencies. But
It's actually good.
with
It's
Iran,
actually good.
they don't have the people. If you don't have the people, your currency is going to be worth shit.
Well, the real is worth shit. I mean, no, it has been dropping, like due to U.S. sanctions and all this kind of stuff. People have been like, the official market rate of what banks will transact at and what the people transact at local currency exchanges, there's a massive gap between the two. There's been a massive
when
drop.
people start burning your
I'm going to beg
banks.
to argue they may not have the people, but they control the people. And they can make
I don't
them do
think they
whatever.
control the people. If they would control the
It-
people,
that-
they wouldn't have to shoot them down,
Yeah,
and they
but
wouldn't
did
have
it in
these people burned
2009
down.
and they
That's
stayed
one way
in
to
control, and they
control.
did it this year, and they stayed in control. As we're speaking, they're still in control. So
Yeah,
now,
but it's
now
like
that we agree with this mentality,
control. It's not when you have to actually shoot down your people, and when your people actually burn down your banks. That's not the kind of cooperation level required for making a digital currency work.
You mean
No, of course, but they can have the secret police go into every shop. For example,
And enforce
if they
it.
implement a
That's what I'm saying.
CBDC, they basically go into every shop. They've got tons of secret police, the besiege, who are essentially like a
So
Do it or disappear.
you wanna like rape a network effect. I don't see that.
It's not,
happening.
but that's the thing. It's not a rape network effect in Iran. It is entrenched in their basic levels of economy there. So all the government has to do is essentially have the central banks transition to a CBDC, build the payment system or like a little machine that will accept it if you have like a crypto credit card, so to say, and then just require by law that people accept it. Just transition their fiat money to a fiat CBDC, and it will be implemented there. I understand what you're saying, but they are so entrenched in their economy.
Yeah, but then there's no. The point of these digital currencies is to allow new kind of network effects globally. So China can do
I
this.
don't
but
think the totalitarian Islamic regime
care about
in
anything.
Iran cares about the global picture of
And
what
the
a
thing is, if
CBDC
they
is.
take it-
for sure they do because they're blocked out of it. For sure.
Yeah,
do.
they want their own currency, or they want to get around the U.S. sanctions. That's their
Exactly.
goal, is to be able to get around the
Obviously,
sanctions.
That's the purpose.
And
They're
so-
not
so-
into the
Right, but in order
internal-
We're not
to do that, if they
disputing
needed
that.
to work within the country, it needs to be implemented
They
within the
don't
country
care
first.
about
No.
within the country. They care about them not being able to
multi-
play in the macro field.
Yeah, no one
And-
can. It doesn't matter if people in the country are using it. If no one's using it outside the country, they're not getting around sanctions.
Right,
It
but
doesn't
they're not
matter
gonna,
what the
but it doesn't
domestic
matter if
currency
they
is.
use like the Chinese currency to get around sanctions, the U.S. dollar. If they're sanctioned, they're sanctioned. It's not a matter of what currency.
What do you mean?
they use
If they're
to
going
do
to
that.
if the Chinese currency is going to be worth something, and they're going to be able to get a line of credit in that something, they'll be able to use it. So
So it doesn't make a difference whether it's crypto or not in that sense.
well, it does because when it is not crypto, it's hard to build a network effect that spans multiple, like various stakeholders, where it is possible with crypto. But in order to be like the facilitating party, the Coinbase of it, you need to have enough global resonance, and the Iranians just don't. They don't have it from the outside. They don't have it from the inside. They just don't.
The reason that U.S.
not gonna
sanctions
happen.
work is because essentially international
Do they
business
work?
Yeah,
Is
the
in
reason
dollars,
that-
is
is
in
in dollars.
dollars,
So
yeah.
it isn't necessarily that crypto, but that if you're trying to usurp the U.S. dollar from being the international currency, people are saying, "Hey, a cryptocurrency could be that usurper."
So then,
Exactly.
move to the Chinese currency and align with North Korea.
Once-
the same
once
way
they
the North
launch.
Koreans
Yeah,
are.
they
that's
launch.
much more likely to happen. It's just like they're going to be the ICO boom. You know, there's going to be like 1 trillion coins, and out of that, you're going to see like in 2 years, maybe two, maybe
survive.
one
That survive.
survive.
But still, it will
And
make
it may be
progress.
the Chinese way before it's going to be anything Iranian.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
but
they- no. But I love the spirit. We're going to move to people we do understand, and actually, nothing can stop them. And needless to say, Iranian central bank digital coin, Chinese, who cares? Bitcoin has been bleeding. Needless to say, as we are taping this, it's been some sort of an upturn over the course of the day. This is Thursday, one of the one before that, I think the last Thursday in December 2019. But Bitcoin has been having a bad few weeks. Not for Tim Draper, though. Tim Draper, the Bitcoin bull and well-known billionaire, has doubled down on his $250,000 prediction to be what Bitcoin will be worth within 2 years or 3. Firstly, stating that within 2 years, people, according to him, will be coming around, and this is why.
Within the next 2 years, people are going to have this choice. They're going to say, do I want to use a credit card that costs me 2.5% to 4% every time I swipe it, or do I want to use Bitcoin, which is frictionless? I mean, it makes me angrier and angrier that the banks are taking 2.5% to 4% every single time I swipe my credit card. It just goes away. I mean, I think of that 2.5% to 4%. I could do a lot with that, and I think a lot of other people in the world are going to feel that way too. And it's just a matter of when it's a little bit more convenient, and people feel a little more secure about it, where they can swipe that credit card, and that just means a few more engineers have to do a lot more work.
Now, to be honest, the banks have been taking 2 to 4% from all of us for a very long time.
Yep.
Why, do we think that really within 2 years people will get sick of it?
I mean, right now, I'm pretty sure that that 2% is not on the spender, but rather on the store. I mean, yes, that might be passed off to the consumer essentially with the pricing. But as of right now, as a consumer, when I swipe, I'm not thinking, oh, shucks, 2% of my money's gone. I'm thinking I just paid.
You're getting 2% back. As
Yeah,
points.
the cash
But
back.
you're not aware of the fact that the price of what you buy is about 2% higher, or has to be 2% higher,
Exactly.
compared to what it could have been because of that. Because financing costs is it's part of
This
the cost
2%
of
are taken away because you're paying more money than what it was
just
would have been
notice it.
had the banks did not have to
Can
pay
we
the
just go back to the statement that Bitcoin is bleeding? Because first of all, if we look exactly 12 months back, it always towards the end of the year there's some kind of dip, okay, in the dollar to Bitcoin pair, which everybody's so fanatic about. And I think personally, although it's a wish, I don't have time to deal with this myself, but if there was some kind of fundamental analysis of the fundamentals, like the amount of brain power, the number of open jobs, the number of patents being registered, number of companies being formed, etc., you would see that Bitcoin is not dead, as we're saying Bitcoin as a crypto, a synonym.
Right.
It's actually very much alive and growing. This thing of always attracting our mood to the most speculative part of cryptosphere is a disease in my eyes. So I don't think it's dead.
Yep.
Just wanted to put that out there, because I'm feeling a
But
lot
that's
of
how all
pessimism
of
in the air.
Of course,
I'm
that's
with
how all of
Eitan.
us feel. But that said,
But
the
look at the
outer world-
fundamentals.
Well,
Look at the
well,
fundamentals.
if you would take a cross of Heath Ledger's Joker, who is much better, by the way, much better.
concur.
But if you take a cross of Heath Ledger's Joker,
Yoda's loving this one.
and
Yeah.
and Matty Greenspan's tweet a couple days ago about Bitcoin being down 3%, and it's Bitcoin goes up 100% and no one bats an eye, but it goes down 3% and everyone loses their minds.
Yeah.
It's so what that it's down. It's been one dramatic roller coaster the entire time. It's like weather in Chicago. You don't like the price? Wait 15 minutes.
okay,
right.
Mr. Draper though had an idea on how to solve it, and a theory of what is happening and what is needed, which I would love to hear your take on it. This is a suggestion or recommendation, stark realistic, opinion, but Mr. Draper thinks that Bitcoin needs the chicks. Let's have a listen.
It turns out that women do about 75 to 80% of the retail business. I mean, they do 75 to 80% of the shopping, and
Indeed.
women are only one out of every 15 wallets is Bitcoin wallets is held by a woman. So I think that there's this, and once the women realize that they're wasting 2.5 to 4% every time they swipe their credit card, they will definitely be starting to look for a better solution, knowing that there is another solution. So,
You're ready to punch. Yeah. Amazing. No, I mean, seriously.
Well, yeah, what was your reaction to Tim?
What
The only thing that went through my head.
He's just
First of all,
promoting
Jack,
a
it's us. I
mean,
gentle.
yeah,
It's
no,
us.
it's us. We
It's
are-
us. We do not have enough women with wallets.
That's one
look,
thing, and we don't buy enough.
And we don't buy enough.
Do you-
And then men go there and then buy cars at $200,000.
Four-wheelers in the middle of
Exactly.
cities, whatnot. I had to share that
Wait,
moment with you.
what's wrong with a good pickup?
Do you
What
think
did I? Am I missing out?
Do you think there's a conspiracy out there by these predominantly
White
male developers who are saying, "Hey, if you want to keep our wives away from these wallets, we're going to not give them wallets"?
Most likely, we can go with that one. That's probably that big conspiracy.
She
We're
can
keeping-
handle the credit card. She can't handle.
She cannot handle
a
the wallet. She
so-
cannot handle the wallet.
I could see the Grand Wizard of the KKK going, if I can just get my goddamn wife to buy Bitcoin, it would go up.
Thank you. I needed that moment because, needless to say, throughout the interview, and God loved Tim Draper. Yes,
You needed to puke.
You know why
Yeah.
he said that though? Well, if just women would buy more Bitcoin, it would go up in price.
To
Because
make
he's
us all
not
angry.
willing to make the same bet that John McAfee made about what he'll do when Bitcoin, at the price Bitcoin reaches by the end of 2020.
I just want to say that if in
He loves women
2022
more.
Bitcoin is not $250,000, do not blame us.
No, but John McAfee said he'd
Don't
eat his
blame us.
own. John McAfee said he'd eat
John
his own.
McAfee, blame
McAfee, yeah, there we go.
blame John McAfee's member. But we're going to move along because it has been, as all of you rightfully said, why is the price dropping? The sphere is insane,
I
et
wasn't
cetera, et
saying
cetera. And
that.
I'm glad I have Yona here because
I wasn't.
Chainalysis, people claim that, well, one of the theories out there was the Chainalysis report on plus token scammers responsible for Bitcoin's plunge. Back to the sad state, I'm sorry I wrote this, but it's going to go up, the sad state of affairs with Bitcoin, supposedly. Theories about its plunge, some of which connect the recent downtrend to a Chainalysis report on the plus token scammers, and needless to say, we always look for those reasons. But Yona Hochhauser spoke with Kimberly Grauer. She's a senior economist for analytics at that firm. To hear the core details of that report, let's see if we all think that is what got everybody scared and dropped the price. Here it is.
I'd say that there were probably three major findings from the report. The first finding was just the size of this scam, which is one of the reasons why we investigated it. We know the scammer stole at least $2 billion from people over the course of the past year. And it makes it one of the largest Ponzi schemes that, not just in crypto. And the second thing that we noticed about this, one of the second major takeaways from the report, was surrounding money laundering. Not only the size, but how are the criminals moving the money from, the plus token wallet to what we call off ramps, which are, exchanges. And the reports focus specifically on OTC brokers. We did look at Huobi specifically because it was one of the largest receivers of the plus token money. Mm-hmm. And then the third was the price. What is the relation between this activity, all of this stolen Bitcoin and Ether and a few other cryptocurrencies, and as those funds move to these exit ramps, what is the impact of that activity on the price? Because it's essentially flooding the market with Bitcoin and Ether that needs to be offloaded and sold very rapidly. So those were the three things that we focused on.
Criminals.
Okay, needless to say, the Ponzi schemes, the bad rep, that report doesn't bode well for the sphere. Do we really think that is what moved the price?
It could be the straw that broke the camel's back.
You think?
I mean, Bitcoin, if you pay attention to the price of Bitcoin, watch it. Like I work all day and I keep it. I got Coinbase Pro, like full-size screen on a separate screen. And you just see Bitcoin bouncing off 7,000 and it would drop down, recover, drop down, recover. It was looking for a reason to sink. It was flirting with that line. And maybe it was just a thing that kind of was just
I find it hard connecting emotions to graphs, but I'm not a technical analysis person. However, I do think that whenever there's a supply coming to the market for whatever reasons, Ponzi related or schemes related, or just supply streaming to the market, prices might go down. And I think once the market absorbs those extra supply, it will go back. So
but if
either
you
you
look
believe
at that,
in it or not.
If you look at that, I know I'm the trade analysis, the technicals I don't think always make the biggest difference. But if you see something that plays into the technicals, that it's flirting with that line, it's bouncing, it wants to go down, and then you get a plethora of extra supply on top of bad news, you've got the trade analysis, the technicals which are pushing it down, and then you've got the human sheep mentality, which is get the F out of this right now.
Yeah.
I mean, aside that people don't, not that it totally explains it, but aside that people don't really realize is that with this plus token scam, it's not like this money wasn't on the market and also now it is on the market. The people who invested in the plus token scam clearly weren't hodlers. This was money that was being traded. Yeah. So yes, it is super concentrated at one time. That does have an effect, but I think it is overstated. The thing though that she was saying on the report that I actually didn't realize until I actually read the report and spoke to her was that even though exchanges do have pretty strong KYC and AML, and now in Europe it will start soon as well, she said that there still maintains a major loophole with OTC brokers, where those OTC brokers aren't held to that same standard, and that's where all this money laundering is happening. That's where all this kind of fudging the numbers is going on, is through these OTC brokers, because they don't have to go directly with the exchanges.
I think in general you're seeing like a lot of leftovers from a broken market that was 2 years ago, and also from the genesis where there was unproportionate amounts of cheap Bitcoin and Ether being distributed to smaller amounts of wallets. In general, when we start seeing more utility-based usage and now when there's so many more security checks in place, you're going to see like smaller amounts moving in much larger amounts of wallets. These economies will become much stronger. So these are like kind of remnants and leftovers.
Growing pains.
And when they wash out, the economy becomes stronger. So
Once the economy
it's
absorbs
just
that.
a normal,
But just
normal
to,
process.
Just to keep an idea of like how big this was, though, it was something like 2+% of the entire crypto market.
Yep.
And so, you know, like all your points were exactly really on point. The concentration, you know, specifically, but I don't know. It's like it's not the reason itself per se, but if the market's looking to go down and bad news comes out, it will drop. Like it was looking for any reason to do so, and it just had this perfect opportunity.
And also in general, you see that crypto is, because there's the ratio between speculation and news-based price slippages to actual utility-based volume is not as should be. It's so much more like malleable, you know, and news can affect it so much more. But again, I see these as growing pains. And
Not being a trader, though, sorry. Excuse
No,
me,
go
just
ahead, go
not
ahead.
being a trader, though, I will suggest this point of view. If you're a day trader or short-time trader, then when prices fall, you don't care that much because you open shorts and you trade on a falling market, right? When you're a very long-time trader or just putting it as an investor,
Right.
you also shouldn't care about tweaks in the prices. It could go down to 6,000 or 5,000, God forbid, or 7,000 or even 10,000.
God forbid on 5.
I mean,
Like,
no, I'm saying.
hoping for 5.
And you
Choose
could be
me too,
hoping,
because we're not
et cetera.
Tim Draper, then I can
Because
buy.
if you believe, if you're there for the next 10 years, 12 years, or 20 years, or to your pension time, then you shouldn't care about those price changes anyway.
and
So
I
it comes
think
to the
also-
point that you don't care anyway.
I think that's correct, but you're also showing the signs of a mature market. In a mature market, people have all these options, and one of the things we haven't accounted for, at least in this discussion, is futures, right? So futures, and physically sell futures, is a relatively new thing, and these instruments' effects on the market are also new. So we're seeing this there's so many factors in play, and so the Bitcoin is becoming much stronger if you would look at it from a fundamental analysis. Having futures in place just makes it more kind of dichotomized, but still with the futures and the physically settled futures where everything is a bit more erratic, it's still holding ground and finding its place. So I still see it, when I look all around in a critical view, I still see it as a healthy growth.
Would you say that we're in the puberty of cryptocurrency
Not yet,
at the
not
moment?
even yet.
It's hard to say, it's for sure it's an exponential phenomena because it's an IT phenomenon. IT phenomenon is exponential. Exactly where we are in the exponent, I don't know. But it's really important to reiterate that unlike our thinking process, the human thinking process, which is linear means it just goes like this. The exponent is really hard to understand. This is like no man's land. This is the desert. This, before it picks up, is the desert. You don't know where you are, if you're going backwards, if you're going forward, you have no idea if it's even going anywhere, and it still may be on an exponent that's about to shoot to the fucking stars. So we should all
I
remember
think
that.
it boils down
And let me
eventually.
remind us all that this is all started in 2009.
I was about
and
to say.
widespread. It came only
Historically,
2010 onwards.
it's in a nascent
Yeah, well,
industry
it's
that is
very
very,
young.
very young.
It's very young.
True, but then again, the
So
human-
it's not
Imagine the
puberty,
first
it's the
5
Billy Idol era of crypto.
No, really, but imagine the
God,
first
remember
5 to 10
him?
years
Okay.
of email,
Um,
of internet.
I know, but then you have stops in
taken
place.
a
Apropos what Yona mentioned, AML and AML regulations. The crypto industry in Europe. Let's talk Europe for a second, because as we're entering the next decade, the crypto industry in Europe is entering a new phase with AML regulations.
Yep.
On January 1st, it's coming. The 5th Anti-Money Laundering Directive is a piece of legislation that brings fiat to crypto exchanges and custodial wallets across the European Union under a new, first-of-its-kind regulatory framework. We wanted regulation. This is very strict. Exchanges must achieve compliance with the rules by January 10th, 2020. Very short time.
Yep.
Time ticking away, causing some exchanges to scramble. Others stand ready to roll out compliance procedures. First of all, what will this do to the European exchanges? I mean, I'm the one to vote to say this is a good thing. If you can't make it by that deadline, you shouldn't be working.
Exactly. They should have been
But I
prepared
mean,
even
let's
before.
hear your.
Yeah, I think it's kind of going to be a kind of filtering effect where the exchanges that have their act together, that kind of survive off legitimate transactions, they're going to be able to actually handle this. They're going to implement it, and they're going to survive strong and be stronger because it's going to knock away all those exchanges that aren't up to stock.
It's cleaning
that
the
are-
form.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's going to
exactly.
clear out the bad exchanges that both are bad technically and are bad, surviving off bad money. And I think it will make the strong will survive and the good will survive.
And it's no
I think this is a
surprise.
bit inaccurate to say the good will survive, because the thing is that anti-money laundering and money laundering in itself is a lie. There is no money laundering. I mean, the European Union has, by forces of all its armies, of all its countries, the legitimacy, so-called, to print money, and it doesn't want anybody else stepping on it. But the thing is that blockchain brings an innovation that is hard to stop. So nobody actually asked the European Union Commission's opinion whether or not to print Bitcoin and when, right? And this is part of the strength of Bitcoin. So the thing is, it is going to dichotomize. So you are going to see very compliant
Right.
sheep, right? You like the word sheep, so very compliant sheep that are able to keep their license in Europe, right? But then you're going to see another set of services coming on. These services,
What, that they're going to circumvent those decrees?
no, they're
No,
not
they'll-
going to
they'll
circumvent.
not
They're just
care.
not going to
Not
care about them.
comply.
And I'm bringing everybody again to put it on the ground. Binance versus no Binance, right? When Binance launched, it said it's too hard for me to legislate per jurisdiction. I'm keeping fiat out, only crypto, but I'm opening everywhere in the world in the same time. Look what it came out to be. So the thing is, you're going to see two types of services. One type of service is I'm very compliant in my jurisdiction. All my efforts are going to be like a good soldier for the European Union or for the United States of America Fed. And you're going to see another host of services which are globally pervasive and start picking up traction, which do not care for and are not stopped by these regulations. These are going to start creating network effects. These network effects, it could be like file sharing, decentralized file sharing, stuff like that, starting with. And then you're going to see these become so strong that they cannot be shut down by any force that is centralized. And then slowly what you're going to see, these guys eat away these guys in some of the aspects of our current financial standings and networks.
It's like there's just two economies existing, in parallel. It's the black market and the regular economy.
Yeah, we
There's
just
always
shouldn't
be.
call it a black market, because the thing is,
It's not a
it
black
is
market.
unregulated. It is unregulated.
Means
It is
that.
unregulated. You're correct, but regulation is never the leading part of innovation. And the thing is that you're going to see new emergent network phenomena, new emergent economics that is unregulated, but will be far superior in many other KPIs. And these are going to be in a network effect that is global. It will not touch the legacy system, but it will outperform legacy systems in many aspects.
But the kind of clients it will attract will be the clients that will not care to have gone through AML and KYC.
Yeah, but they also
which
can
would
just
be-
go through.
I don't know if
They
it's
also
the
can
case.
just go through non-European exchanges.
Life just wants
They'll
to
have
form.
regulation of their own.
Life just wants to form. When there's an evolution going on,
There's a
and
Jurassic Park
there's
Life will find a way.
Life
Ian
will find a
Malcolm,
way.
Jeff
Where
Goldblum.
there is water,
Life
there's
will
life.
find a way.
That said,
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I don't know how long you think that will take, where, other systems will outperform the legacy system. But there are those who will argue that in order to mainstream something, not play by the rules, but you have to beat the system within the system.
It's
Okay,
not
to
always
get
true.
to a larger
I'll
group
give you
of
an
people.
example. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a very, very important photography album, okay? And you want to save it. Now, let's say you have now two options. You have a decentralized decentralized file sharing system where you don't need anything in order to use it in terms of, you just have internet. You just need internet. If you have internet, you can use it. And then if you have other stuff that is completely regulated and you need to have like your whatever centralized service and etc. So these things may outperform and they don't have to be stopped by regulations, and regulation doesn't always mean a better mass adoption. All these exchanges that now need AML and KYC, do you think they're going to have better user experience? I don't
Not
think
necessarily better user experience, but better understanding and acceptance by regulatory authorities. Like Napster came before iTunes and the Spotify and Netflix and all this this wide scale digital adoption of audio video media. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that peer to peer exchanges of music, i.e., pirating music and video, was necessarily a good thing. It did bring about
Look,
an
a
adoption that came
decentralized
along,
system,
but-
for example, a decentralized system for media distribution can do a lot of good for creators and for consumers.
Of
And
course, but you can't pirate it.
you don't need to pirate it, because if it's a decentralized system, you can make a lot of cryptographic assurances in place. But what I'm saying is you're going to see systems that outperform, and eventually the world will need to regulate
100%.
a
but
global
I had
regulation
this.
for these
I had this.
services.
I had this conversation with my roommate, who's Italian from Rome, and it was regarding the French interest in launching a CBDC for the euro. And he said, well, I don't know how the European Union would feel about this, et cetera, et cetera. And I told him, well, there's nothing actually going on different. They're not printing their own euros. They're simply, staking them in a reserve bank and launching the digital version of them. And the next, I think it was a day or two later, the ECB tweeted that there is value in a payment system for anonymity for lower transactions. So you can buy Coke without the government knowing what you're doing, and larger transactions will go through AML. The government wants to have some level
But
of oversight into
you know
what you're
on what
doing.
platform this is being built?
Apparently it's Corda.
So Corda is not a regulated system. It was built outside of regulation.
It's a matter of the European Union having some level of understanding that what they're doing, that someone
That's what
won't
I'm
just take $1
saying.
million
That's what I'm
and
saying.
transfer it to Al Qaeda.
Their strive for regulation is just a desperate cry to keep on control, and that's fine. But the thing is that
But they're still in
decentralized
control. That's the thing.
Government will always be
still
in
in
control. They
Hold
will
on.
always
Well,
be
and
in
then
control.
speaking of
you're
that,
forgetting
no-
the institutional money, because the institutions won't put their money into non-regulated any forms or any exchanges. However, they have huge amount of money and pension funds money, which is much bigger than any
It's almost like saying,
any
You know
people
that
by themselves.
pension funds is a broken instrument in most countries and won't be able to be paid off. But if you
Yeah,
had
but still.
decentralized insurance, for
Entirely,
example,
entirely,
decentralized
but-
insurance, then people would be able to guarantee their pension regardless of any kind of regulation.
Sure, but sadly,
You're right,
sadly, we
but their
still live in
money
the
won't
world
be-
where most of mankind is motivated by fear, and at the end of the day, that they're going to go for what they think, whether it's right or wrong. What they think is the secure option. And speaking of fear motivation and the world, let's talk about Venezuela before, because Maduro says he will airdrop half a petro each to public employees, retirees, etc., etc. You've all heard about it. Let's take a closer look at it with Ron Spitzer's report.
Earlier this week, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro announced that public work retirees will be deposited half a petro as a Christmas bonus. Those who wish to receive their bonus, reportedly worth $30 or 1,376,977 bolivars, must register on the platform called Petro app, which is designed to allow users to purchase goods and services from their phones as well as for transfers. Although the government does this every year around the holiday season, this will be the first time bonuses are paid in Petro, and the people are pleased.
The people really appreciate this kind of help in a country when the minimum wage is less than $1 daily.
Maduro has been pushing for the success of his Petro Pet project for a while now, but even still it hasn't grown organically within the Venezuelan economy. A basic issue that the Petro is complicated to use.
The thing here is that the system is very complicated. That is using more than 10 steps to try to do a Petro transaction.
To do away with the issue, Sunacrip, the local cryptocurrency regulator, announced that this will now shift to 5 steps.
Okay, is crypto becoming a tool to be exploited by undemocratic regimes?
I mean, what's the difference between
True.
between the worthless petro or the worthless bolivar?
exactly.
Either way, no one outside of Venezuela is using it. Who cares?
And if a tool is a good one, it doesn't really matter who's using it. A stone can be used for good purposes or for bad purposes.
Yeah.
Tool is not related
Ever
to
since fire, everything we invented is a double-edged sword. Just
So
the
is
mere
fire.
fact that it's being of use means that it has use. And of course, you're going to see a lot of types of usage types in it, and we're only in the beginning. I mean, what you saw with the hype of the ICOs is now just just upping its version to the national levels, and it's very interesting to see.
Is this the right time to bring up Ethereum and North Korea, or?
What, Virgil?
Virgil?
Yeah.
Look, the thing is, you're going to
Virgil is again. I mean, does anybody here think Virgil, first of all, actually went out there to teach them the secrets of?
I mean, there's not like everything's online, but I'm just saying, like Iran's wants to launch a CBDC. North Korea's kind of partnering with the Ethereum Foundation. Okay,
but the thing is,
not partnering. I'm just trying to troll.
The thing is that it's not. There's no point in looking the other direction. These tools allow a much greater democratization of financial power, and we need to understand that it's coming, and building more defensive regulation is not going to stop it.
But it's not regulation when it comes to Venezuela.
It's international politics, and there are a lot of...
Of course,
fine,
but this is their version of food stamps. This is them dropping aid to their people.
No, that's fine. I'm saying, I'm not judging if it's wrong or good. People are going to be able to use it. I'm just saying for the current people in charge, for example, the US regulatories, the European regulatories, you need to look ahead, because there's a new world order coming, and we're going to see like 5-10 years of it crumbling about. But basically, you're going to see a lot of disempowered people rise to more financial power because of these tools. So
I just want to say one thing, seriously, because
very seriously,
because we have very little time left. So this is Christmas, folks, okay? And I think you're not scared. But, you know, we're heading towards, in giant leaps, steps, towards the end of the year and the end of the show. What is your crypto, and I'm using a high word here, what is your crypto narrative for 2019?
Besides from Maduro being like a Latino Santa Claus with an airdrop right before Christmas?
Okay. Besides that,
he fits the physical build.
He does.
Right,
He
yeah,
does
you know, like
fit the physical build.
just a little whitening of the mustache
but
and the
does
beard.
he have a hat? That said, back to the question. What 2019, the crypto narrative, one narrative that you think really sticks out?
We're starting with Eitan. He's on the other
Eitan, look
side.
at me.
well, first of all, I would say, you know, to anybody listening, remember at this time, Jesus loves you. And
I'm Jewish, but okay.
that doesn't matter.
He loves you. He loves you
Anyway.
Jesus was Jewish, and the thing is that we, all of these great religions, and while we're celebrating this like camaraderie and goodwill, it's really important to understand that crypto and Web3 is about transforming the human web from a zero to a one-sum game. And in this one-sum game, we can all win together. A new network for the people, by the people. So this is a good time to remember this and also to celebrate this. Of course, growing pains are a bitch, but when we grow up, there's a lot more power for everybody to stand. So, and a lot more freedom as well.
Yona,
Yeah.
honey, I feel for you. You're
That's
coming
a tough-
after this.
tough
I know, I
He's
mean,
so
Tough act to
eloquent.
follow.
That's really
Really
tough
tough act to follow.
Like, I'm gonna start next time if you're on the other
Yeah.
end.
It's a tough act to follow,
We
but-
gotta end off with you.
Yona, you've
I'll-
been with but
I'll go with
Yona
these-
swims in the sphere.
I'll go with the easy one. I'm going to say it has to be Facebook's Libra. And only because, even if in and of itself, it not necessarily has come to fruition, but it started off, it made governments and big organizations wake up and say, whoa, we have to take this crypto thing seriously.
Exactly.
Because if you noticed, Facebook's Libra, once it started, there wasn't really talk of the whole CBDCs until there. There wasn't talk of China coin, Iran coin. All these things is Facebook's Libra. They said, we want to do this, and it made every person wake up and realize this is for real.
Can you imagine what happens when Amazon does that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll support Yona on this and saying this was the year of nationalization or pseudo-nationalization of crypto and large organization or entrepreneurial
Entrance.
and entrance of there, and the large enterprises coming in.
I think that's what also got regulations so on high speed to
Exactly.
block all these things at this point in
Once the
time.
big guys are there, regulation will come in
regulation's
to
gonna
make
step
sure
in
they all
and
work as
entirely.
required. And that's
Alex.
maturation.
Yeah.
After you guys, I mean, that's a tough act to follow. Eitan just kind of like slaughtered at the beginning. No, this year's actually, you know, I was thinking about it last night, and this year's been something, you know, right before the Thanksgiving episode. This year's been, I said for Thanksgiving, this year's been a year of maturity. And I come to think of it, everyone thought this year would be the year of STOs and it would take off, et cetera,
True.
et cetera. And I think it's more likened to, let's say, immature boxer who gets up on stage and he's all, he's like full of his ego and he's like got his hot air and whatnot. And he had a few big hot punches, ICOs, kind of rose up and showed his worth and then got the shit kicked out of him. And right now we're sort of can I say that? We've sort of we're recovering from that initial hit to the face. And we're recovering. We're like, okay, we had this, we were hot shit. We took our hit and now let's hit back harder than we did before. We're, in that recovery stage. And I guess I'll leave off this year with a Winston Churchill quote.
Which is?
Where you can...
This is not the end, my friends. This is not even the beginning of the end, but it might be the end of the beginning.
Did she just get it?
No,
that was not it. That was not
That's
it.
a Churchill quote.
It kind of has to go back to the CBDCs and will China and Iran beat us, et cetera, et cetera. But you can always, Winston Churchill, mind you, I can't believe a Brit said this, but
to the point.
you can always count on the Americans to do the right thing after trying everything else first.
Okay, there you go.
Right.
And I think that's one way to finish it off. Now we're all gonna sing. Just kidding. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have been phenomenal. Raise your glasses. This was leading up to Christmas, the narratives of blockchain and booze. A wonderful show. We were Block TV, and we'll be right back.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.